This is the template that you will use for your field experience project. So on the title slide, you want to put the title of the project, your name, the semester, and the title of our course, which is SPE 250, Reaching and Teaching Diverse Learners. And then your next slide will be explaining the purpose of the project. And there's a couple of places that you can find the purpose. One is from the previous recording of the project. You can also find the purpose using one of our course objectives. And you can also find the purpose on Blackboard when you go to look at the field experience project in our Blackboard shell. So you can build your project purpose around using that information. So before you get into talking about these different types of schools that you are researching, we want to know more about you. What was your experience? So what school district did you attend for elementary, middle, and high school? What grades did they serve? What types of schools were they? Did you go to a public school, private school? How inclusive do you feel the culture of that school was? And then share any examples that you're comfortable sharing about your experience in those schools. And then this slide, you're going to actually give us more factual information about your school. Not that what you're sharing isn't factual. I'm not saying that. You're going to share demographic facts of your elementary school currently. So each school website has to provide this information on their website. So you might have to dig a little bit, which is, again, why this is going to take 10 hours of your time, is because you're going to have to do some deeper research. So you want to find the racial makeup of the student body and the staff, the gender makeup of the student body and the staff. You'll need the socioeconomic information, and then share any special programs that school provides now. And then, do they have an equity and diversity statement? If they do, share the statement. If they don't, just explain that you looked for one, but they did not appear to have one. Then the next slide, you're actually going to do the same thing, but talk about your high school. And then I think it's really important to, as you're building this background on your experiences and the schools that you attended, is for you to think about what some of the benefits of that school experience were and what some of the drawbacks were, or some of the maybe areas that were less helpful. Okay, so I went to school in a rural area, which you would normally typically think that there would be fewer students, but my graduating class was actually 300 students. And the high school that I attended is now an international baccalaureate high school. It was not that when I went to school there. So that's something I would add that was a drawback for me, because it sounds really interesting, but I didn't have access to it. But it would be a benefit for students now who are going to that high school. Also, international baccalaureate is also a type of school that you could research if you were interested. Then we want to know your future goal. What grade level and type of school do you see yourself teaching in or hope to teach in? Do you want to teach in a rural school, an urban school, a suburban school? Are you interested in teaching on a military base? Are you interested in teaching internationally? Are you interested in maybe you're thinking you are really committed to Great Start readiness programs, or maybe you're really thinking about center-based special education classrooms. So this is where you're just going to dream a little bit and think about, where do you see yourself in the future, and what kind of school and classroom do you see yourself teaching in? So this slide is where you're going to start to get into your research. So you're going to explain the type of school that you chose to research. So let's just use the International Baccalaureate, because I brought that up as an example. So let's say you chose IBO schools. On this slide, you're going to talk about International Baccalaureate schools. You're going to explain what those are. Like, what is the premise behind IBO? They're very, I would say, I don't know if popular is the word, but they're pretty renowned, and there's specific reasons why. So that's what you would put on this slide. Like, why is IBO considered a better school, or is it it might be considered better for certain types of students. So if you chose like alternative high schools, like what is the purpose of an alternative high school? Like explain what the school is, what makes it unique, and then you can explain why you chose it. So maybe you chose International Baccalaureate because you've heard it talked about, but don't really know what it is. Or maybe you chose charter schools because you hear people talk about it, but you're not really sure what they are. Um, or it just sounded interesting to you. So explain why you chose the particular type of school that you did. Then this is where you start getting your sharing your more specific information about the Michigan school that you researched related to that. So on Blackboard, there is a document that outlines, so you get a written version of the instructions for this project on Blackboard. But in that also is more, I guess, more examples of schools that you could choose. And so there's different types of magnet schools. So Renaissance High School is a magnet school. Cass Technical High School is a magnet school in the Detroit area. There's Montessori schools. One's called Steps Montessori School, and it's in an urban area. There's Bloomfield Maples Montessori. So that's what you're going to look for, a specific type of school, magnet school, if that's what you chose, or a specific type of IBO school in the state of Michigan that's geared towards elementary age students. So preschool through 6th grade. Okay, so because we have a PK6 major. If you are interested in like what's available, it's also, you could include those of you who are doing birth to kindergarten. You can also think about schools that are available below preschool. I don't know if there are any, but it'd be interesting to look. So this is where specific schools in Michigan, name of the school. This first one needs to be preschool, elementary focused. Okay, so then you're going to present the name of the school. And I love if you can find an image of the school. So a lot of times the websites will have a picture of the school. If you do a Google search and hit images, pictures will show up. So actually try to include a photo of the school, share what grade levels are served. And then what's fun is to actually use, if you do a Google search, you can see the map, do a screenshot of the map and include it here. So we can see like where it's located in the state of Michigan. Then this slide, you're actually going to present the staff information, which will mean that you actually have to go to that school's website and look at the staff. So what is the leadership? Like, do they have, like, is the school, is it a principal? Is it a dean of students? Like, what's the name and title and role of the person who oversees the entire school? Actually count up how many teachers are there. What does the racial gender makeup look like? And then are there ancillary services provided? So do you see any reference to a speech and language pathologist, a school social worker, a counselor, a nurse, physical therapist, occupational therapist, any behavioral specialists, interventionists? So really do a deep dive in the different staff that are available in that school. Then you're going to look at the student population. And again, this data will be provided on the website. How many students are served and what is the racial, socioeconomic, language, gender makeup of the student population. And you can include pictures of graphs and things on that slide, would be my suggestion. And then some more general information about the school. What types of subjects are studied, what special topics or programs are offered, what extracurriculars are offered, if any. What's unique about this school, or what is highlighted on the website as maybe points of pride. So a good thing too, if you can't find something for each of these bullet points, that's okay, but explain that. So instead of just leaving it off, you could say, I looked, but I wasn't able to find any extracurricular activities offered, because that information, that lack of information is still really good information for your group members to know. Did they have a diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging statement or a mission or a vision related to that? Did you get a feel that maybe there was kind of an inclusive culture in this school? For example, if there's photographs on the website, do the photographs include kids with disabilities, or is there a diverse representation of skin colors, and like, can you get a feel for how diverse and inclusive that particular school is? And then, again, take screenshots and share them on this slide. Or if you notice the ways that they talk about their school and you feel like that really made me feel included. Like if I were a student from maybe a lower socioeconomic family or background, would that make you feel like you belonged there? Or would it be, is it something that makes you feel like excluded? So look for some examples of the culture of the school. And then this slide addresses the benefits and drawbacks. Now, this is you using your own thoughts about it. So based on all of the research that you've done, what do you think are benefits of this particular school? And what do you think might be some of the drawbacks of this particular school? So a lot of times you'll see schools that have a lot of different services that are available to students, and that would definitely be a benefit. Or maybe the school that you researched really didn't have a lot of services, and that would then be a drawback. And then this slide is any testimonials that you can find on social media or on the website. Capture those here. Did a family make a comment about how great the school is, or did a teacher say something about like working at this school is really exciting or fun, or I love it here? So any testimonials that you can find from people who are currently engaged with that school would be great. And so you're going to have to do some research with this. You might have to do some Googling, or even take a look on some social media websites like TikTok, Facebook. I know a lot of schools have Instagrams now because that's how they get information out to their families. So again, you're going to have to do some research to find that information. And then you're going to do the very same thing again with your second school. And your second school is going to be middle and high school focused. So your first school has to be preschool, elementary focused. Your second school has to be middle and high school focused. And I know even if you are planning to teach kindergarten or planning to teach in preschool, the state of Michigan still wants to know that you are aware of what's available beyond that. So you're going to do a little bit of research in middle, high school, or even older. So special education has what are called transition programs, and those are actually post 12th grade. So those are people who are 18 to 26. So that is also a type of school that you could research. So you're going to do the same exact thing with school number 2 that you did with school number 1. All of the same information from their website. Share this. This is all going to be part of the information that you'll share with your group when you record yourself presenting your slide deck. And then there's a comparison and reflection part. So you're going to, engage in all of this research, and we want you to stop and think about what you've learned. Okay, so the comparison and reflection is, for your comparison, explain how the schools you researched compare to the schools you attended. And then how are they similar and how are they different? How do they foster a culture of inclusivity? What evidence is there to support your response to the question above? So like, do you feel like the school that you researched, how did it compare to your experience in preschool and elementary school, or middle school and high school, whichever school that you're focusing on for this comparison? So you'll compare the elementary or the preschool, elementary, and then you'll talk a little bit about the middle high school if that's what you chose. So how are these schools the same or different from your own school experience? And then the reflection part is, what are your thoughts about how they compare, and which one would you be most interested in teaching at, and why? As a culturally competent teacher, what would you need to prepare to teach in one of the schools that you researched? So let's say maybe the school that you researched has an international baccalaureate focus, and you notice that the staff is primarily white. So what would you need to do to prepare to teach in a school like that? Or what if the school is primarily staff and students of color, and maybe you are not? And what would you need to prepare to work there? You could also think about if it's an urban area, what would you need to prepare to teach in an urban area that maybe you wouldn't need to know to teach in a rural area? And then how would you contribute to creating an inclusive culture in that school? So this is where you're tying in what we've learned in class. So we've covered poverty, immigration. What else have we covered? We're going to cover language and ethnicity. So based on everything that you're learning about these different identities that we all hold, how can you contribute to creating an inclusive culture in your school if you don't share the identity of the students you're teaching or the staff that you'd be working with? So we want you to really reflect on that and bring in what you're thinking about. So you've been doing a really nice job with your notes each week and like really thinking deeply about the content and what it means for you as a teacher. So this is a place for you to kind of bring that in. And then lastly is your reference slide. So you want to make sure that you are using APA format. Purdue OWL is hyperlinked in the actual template that's available to you on Blackboard, and it gives you the format that you need to use APA 7th edition style for websites and articles and things like that. And that was the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is you can actually use CMU's library to do a little bit of research on your school. So I might actually do another follow-up video kind of showing you how to use that, the CMU library. Even though you're virtual, you have access to the library. And I'll do another little video, a quick tutorial on how to search for the information, the research that you need related to your different types of schools.